If you are a married believer trying to navigate this intimacy thing without shame, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you are in the right place.
You have to ask for what you want. We can't read minds.
We like to pick and choose what we want to take from the Bible that applies to our life. We're going to always pick and choose the parts that make us feel good.
More comfortable.
You're reading it from an emotional space to basically say, okay, God, how do I respond?
Yeah.
But I don't want to be alone. How do I respond? But I don't know how to survive. How do I respond? But we're going to find the answers or look for the answers that's going to cure the but. From a healed perspective, how would you respond?
Yeah.
And from an unhealed perspective, how would you respond?
It got to the point where I was about to act out, and my acting out was leading towards I would have ended up behind cha-ching, the bars, right? When pressure is adding, and someone's constantly violating you, and no, you don't have an outlet.
Unless you are in alignment with God, it's not going to look well.
Yeah.
Space where we tell our truth. Testimony, healing, breaking shame loose. Learning our bodies and walking by faith. Intimacy, God's way, right here is the place. Sex ed for saints. Mondays at 6. We believe in the power of the story. Not just pain, but redemption and glory. Faith in the rhythm, hearts in the mix. Trust in educators. Mondays at 6. We're overcoming by the word of these testimonies. People getting free when we speak what's holy. Healing in our hearts, shame starts to split. Every story told, another chain gets stripped. Learning our bodies, learning His way. Intimacy and faith, walking day by day. This is where we heal, where the truth sticks. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6.
What's the lesson we will learn today? What's the lesson we will learn today? What's the lesson we will learn today on Sex Ed for Saints? It's time to party. What's up, beautiful people? Listen, y'all, she over there laughing at me because, we were talking about my intro. And she was like, you doing that intro? I said, yeah, I'm doing my intro because I want y'all to know what the lesson we going to be doing every single time y'all tuning in. And I felt like that's catchy. Y'all tell me in the comments if that's catchy.
Please.
If y'all like that, I'll keep doing it. If y'all be like, nah, that's a little bit too cheesy, then I might.
And I'll shut up. I promise.
She'll be quiet, but I don't know. It depends on how many y'all come for me. If y'all say, what's the lesson? I think it's catchy.
You know what? It's growing on me.
It's growing on you?
It's growing on me.
It's growing on me? I ain't gonna change it, y'all. But tell me though.
You see?
Tell me. What's the lesson we gonna learn today?
Go ahead.
Y'all, we're doing a continuation of the series that we did where we're talking about friendships and how, are you a bad friend or are you a bad friend or is it a trauma response? And listen, one of the things that I'm learning is that you don't have to be fully healed to be a better friend. Yeah. Listen,
Drop the mic.
You just have to be honest about the patterns that your pain has created. And when I tell you, when you're thinking even on that level about the pain, about the patterns that have been formed because of some of the pain that you've experienced and how that shows up within your relationships, I think it's important to sit down and really dissect that when it comes to, your life and how that shows up. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it. And the response to that is going to be, it's going to look like you're a bad friend, right? When you don't really have to be. And so I'm excited again to have Coach Rizzy in the building.
Getting used to that.
Yeah, we gonna see a little bit more, hopefully a lot more of Coach Rizzy, recording some episodes in the future and things like that. But I absolutely love having her on as my co-host. We just mesh so well together. Like it's a vibe.
It is
always
a vibe over here.
It'd be a vibe, y'all. It'd be a vibe, and I love pulling from her because she's so smart. She's so passionate about this topic, and if I can be of assistance for her to be able to use her voice to get a message across to help somebody, then I'm doing my job, right? I'm doing God's work out here in these streets, and that's what we do. We help each other, we pull from each other, we grow together, and all the things. And so we're gonna continue this because when we did the series last week, it was a lot of information that we could not get in. And so last time we talked about are you a bad friend or are you a traumatized friend? And And today we're going to, see what you do with it, right? This is not about, shaming survivors or anything like that. It's not about making excuses for, behavior that is harmful. It's really just about growth and how are we growing as things happen within our lives. And so let's get to it. And so, Larissa, you found some stats, and let's get into it.
I did. I found some stats, and to be honest, I question these sometimes, and let me preface that by saying the only reason why I challenge stats at times, because majority as the stats that's reported is from people that have reported, right? Speaking specifically to sexual trauma, right? It's stats of the numbers are going to be heavily skewed at times because we're just recording reports that were given, people that disclosed, which we all know. There's a high percentage of people that do not disclose. So anyhow, the CDC reports that 1 in every 4 girls will be sexually assaulted before their 18th birthday, and 1 in 20 guys. That's where I go, because it's a whole lot more than that. But anyhow, that's what it says. And it also speaks on complex trauma and how complex trauma affects our ability to trust, to connect, and to manage emotions, right across the board. And that includes PTSD, right? Some of the things that it lists is that withdrawal and numbness can look like coldness, not caring. It's often referred to as trauma, which we all know it is, but it still lands on people around you as something else, right? Well, people will read into, for the episode we did last week, it's so easy to misinterpret or misunderstand and read wrongly into the behaviors as a result. But one of the things that I really wanted to ask Tammy and kind of put her on the spot for a bit is, what type of friend do you believe trauma made you?
An inconsistent one. Inconsistent. My friends would say, well, the ones that I have left. They would tell you that I used to disappear. I would withdraw. I would not show up. Like they would be there for me, but I would not be there for them. Like so many different things. I really was a bad friend, but not understanding that I was acting out of the trauma that I've experienced. And, a lot of times I remember one of my best friends, and I remember she was having a birthday, and this just came to me the top of my head. And, birthdays are important to her. Well, they were back then, more important to her back then than they are now, because, we older now. But back then, I remember, I was dating a guy, and whenever I was dating somebody, I was even worse a friend.
You disappear.
Listen, disappear is not a word, right? Like I used to be ghost. And they would be so disappointed and so mad. And I've lost so many friends because, trauma taught me to also be selfish, right? I wanted to please whatever it was that I was experiencing during that time. And it's not that their feelings didn't matter, but it wasn't my priority, right? My priority was taking care of me. And, one of the things that I am learning today is you really do have to prioritize friendship. And, the way you treat, like how you see them is how you experience them. And so if you value your friendship, then you prioritize time, or you do things to be a little bit more intentional because you understand that their feelings matter and all the things. And so I didn't have that level of awareness back then. It was just really all about what can Tammy do to please Tammy. And, it didn't turn out well for, a lot of the friendships that I had,
I think you said something just now as to how you see your friends as how you prioritize them, right? And that is so deep that I wanted to say pause on that, because that is so true. Because we just run around doing whatever, whenever, at times, really not thinking about what or how the other person is experiencing us. And to that point, am I a priority to you and for you? You know, if you're just going to, for your friend, you ghosted her, disappeared.
Well,
because
many.
You said
Them. Ghosted them.
They say confession is good for the soul.
There was a lot of dudes back then, okay?
Can I say, I just love this girl's transparency, and that's what this is all about, right? We overcome by the words of her testimony, my dear. And so I have to say, I value your transparency, but for real though, in that space, when you don't know what you don't know, you really don't. And just to ghost them or disappear on them for something else, it's signifying that this takes priority and you don't matter. So
For sure.
you probably have some reaching back to do, my friend. Or
I mean,
probably
so
that
many
season
years
has
have passed by. We talking about high school stuff, you know. Like I done outgrown them 10 times by now. Like, I don't need to go back.
We're going to repent for some of the actions. God, I didn't know what I was doing.
Girl.
And I'm saying that
Some of them needed to get left behind.
To that point.
Whoopsie.
To that point, she's all right. But hey, it's what happens now. You know better, so you do better. To that question for myself, I think one of the things that trauma taught me as it pertains to friendship is I believe that the same energy or the same capacity in which I was giving out towards my friends, I expected to receive that in return, right? And when I didn't, because I found myself over the years in a few friendships that were not reciprocal at all. And then, thanks be to God, I had a couple that were reciprocal, but I still, again, my lens were so blurred.
Yeah.
But that transferred over into my relationships as well. And that's what got me. And I smile because you spoke on that heavily in the last episode about your friendships, your actual friendships being a marker and a measure to your relationships. And so in relationships, for example, I found myself being that over-giving friend or that over-giving girlfriend. And I didn't receive that.
Yeah.
And what I took that to mean, instead of giving language and having conversations about it, it automatically went to, oh, I'm not valued, you know, which in some cases that was the case.
Yeah.
But for real, if we're going to be real about it, right? But sometimes, I'll never forget, my brother, after my first son, when I gave birth to my first son, there was an issue that I was having with my son's dad at the time, and my brother, which is younger than me, said to me, you have to ask for what you want, right? Because I'm sorry, some of us really don't know, and I say some because this applies to both men and women, right? Some of us, we can't read minds. We don't know what you want if you don't verbalize that. And I had an issue with that, right? I for years, I just never learned to speak up for myself. And so I was one of them people that you should know, because if I am doing this, for example, right, and I'm considering you always, that's what I expected, but I didn't say that.
Yeah.
And so it created big issues for me. Yeah, because I just felt like I wasn't valued, you didn't care, and everything that you just said. So what was my response? I disappeared, I ghosted, or I went really silent.
Yeah, because when we're in spaces where we're over giving and giving everything, and it's coming from an unhealed place, we don't even know how to stop.
We don't.
And so we just keep giving and giving and giving, not realizing that we're draining ourselves, because we are not even recognizing that the person who we're giving to doesn't even have the capacity to carry it.
They don't.
You know?
And you know why it takes us so long to, especially in cases where you don't even understand the root cause, later realizing that your over giving is a learned behavior, right? Because for me, I don't know for you, because I know you had that in your past as well. But for me, I learned that early. And that began with the suppressing of my truth and keeping the silence to protect all the people in my family,
Yeah.
right? Because I was told at 5, you can't speak, you can't say this, because you have to protect and to shield someone else.
Yeah.
And that weight for a 5-year-old, I translate that to mean so many things, right? It is now my responsibility to take care of everybody.
Yeah.
And so not even understanding that I had needs, there were things that I needed
Yeah.
to, all of that was suppressed. So, and that grew with me. It came up in so many different ways, but that's where I learned overgiving.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah, and I kind of resonate with that. And for me, when I think about a scenario about overgiving, it came from a space to say, well, you talk about this experience. Like, for example, I remember I had an aunt who, she found out that her spouse during that time had, violated me and, did other things with my sister. And so I remember, I was very free to have the conversation with her, and she nurtured the conversation, and he went away for a while. And, I felt good about that. Right. But then he came back. And so when he came back, there was confusion there, because I could not understand how you could take somebody back who has done these things to your niece, right? When I think about, my sister, she wrote a book a while ago, The Colors of Dawn. And in her book, she talks about those experiences. It's very dark, right?
Wow.
And when I think and even sit and think about all the things that he did within even that book, right? Just, because she never really shared these things vocally, but she, she wrote it in a book. But when I think about even all the things that he did from reading it, I was like, man, like, you allowed this person back in.
Yeah.
And so that taught me, that people will change their mind, but also maybe you're not as valuable as you think.
Yeah.
Right? Because now the value is placed, the priority of the value is placed on the relationship that you have.
Yeah.
Right? And, I didn't have a level of understanding that, as a kid, you don't have language for that.
You don't.
You just see the presence and you're like, man, did I not, like, you made me feel safe to tell you this thing. You gave space for me to be able to do that. I held that there, right? Like, I felt confident because he was no longer there. That was the keeping me safe. And all of that was stripped away when he came back, because now I'm being forced to be in the presence of somebody who's violated me, right? And you don't even have an option to be able to do that because you're the child. And so wherever we go, you go.
Yeah.
And if he has to be present, that means I have to be present too. So now you're forcing me in a space after knowing what's happened. And there was no they were like, it was done in such a way where, I don't trust men, right? Because I remember, like, before he came back, there was an apology. He was like, I'm so sorry. It's such a basic apology. At 13 years, 14, whatever age I was hearing it, it was like, I'm so sorry that I violated you. Like, and that's supposed to make it better, But the fact is, you went there.
Yeah.
Right. And as a child, to when you even thinking about it now as an adult, like, you went there. I am a child and you are an adult.
You made that choice.
Right. You made that choice. And so it goes beyond an apology. Like, an apology is not going to make it better, because you're doing it because you want your family back. It's not even a real apology.
And maybe he was coerced into that, to come back into the house. Is it even a real apology?
Is it even a real apology? But even if an apology would have not made it better.
It would not.
Because you're a predator.
Yeah.
And that is a child. What makes it better is, no, you need to actually get help for this, because something is wrong here. There should never be a situation where you are a man looking at a child in that way. And one of the things that, impacted me the most is that this man I considered him to be my favorite, right? And, when this thing happened, it happened 2 weeks after something else happened, right? Like I was violated 2 weeks prior by somebody else. And so I was already in a secluded place trying to process the fact that I had just been raped, right? And so now I'm coming into a space where now this grown man who I consider to be he was supposed to be a safe space, right? I am in the middle of processing something, and now here you come violating me. And now I feel like I have nothing else.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's too difficult, don't respond or just say that. But I wanted to ask you, what did that feel like in that instant when you saw this person was removed for a while? He was gone. But what did it feel like, little Tammy, feel like in that moment when you looked up and saw this man back in your space?
I was confused. I was so confused because, and this is why, when you're religious,
Yeah.
and you cling on to scripture and think that because I'm married to someone, I got to be married to them forever, and at some, I can't really even blame them for that, right? Because that's what's been drilled, right? Like my grandmother, go hard, marriage. Once you married, you married. That's what my family has been taught. Mm-hmm. We from the island. You don't divorce, right? At least back then. You get married, that's it. It don't matter what you go through, you married. And so I think the thing about it was, on their end, they're processing, how do I even proceed with this?
Yeah.
We have children. We're trying to build a life, right? And how do I even make a decision on this? Mm-hmm. So I get that. It's very difficult. And I get when you're not strong enough in the faith to realize when a covenant has been broken and when it's time to walk away. Mm-hmm. And then you begin accepting whatever it is because you think that's the thing to do because you don't understand God and how the covenant works and all the things. And you allow that because you hold space for, I don't want to disappoint God because I think this is what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. That takes the priority. And so it then begins to be, okay, well, if that's the priority, then how do I make space for this? Well, let me, try to do what I can to kind of, ease it a little bit. Let me, because I'm in an uncomfortable space and this is my mindset for thinking for them.
Yeah.
And I understand that now as an adult. But as a child, I did not understand that. And so today, I don't have any, I have gone through such a wonderful process of forgiving that it doesn't bother me anymore. Now, do I still want to be in their presence? Absolutely not. Right? I do not want to be in his presence. I don't mind her presence.
Yeah.
Right? But every time I'm in his presence, it's a reminder. And not just me, but for my sister as well. Yeah. I can't give space for that. I can forgive you, but I think a lot of Christians believe that, I forgive you means that I have accepted what you did and all the things. No, forgiveness is different, right? I forgive you because you are operating in the flesh, because you are a fleshly being, right? But it doesn't mean that I have to become friends with you and kumbaya. Right. I forgive him because that's what God desires for us to do. And I'm not holding anybody to the trauma that I don't know what his story is and what they experienced or why they do the things that they do, because I know that we open up doors for the enemy to come in and you begin to respond based off of that. And so whatever he did, I don't know. It's not even a concern to me. What mattered to me more was what God wanted me to do with that.
Yeah.
And for me, that was forgiveness.
That is deep. That is deep. It's something that was brought up for me as I was listening to you speak about the expectation or what was placed on or parents, grandparents, and whomever as it pertains to religion, right? But something I've been questioning for quite some time now. There's a lot of expectation that is also placed on adults, right, as it pertains to relationships and being with a partner. So much so that oftentimes, while I know religion plays a major part, I think there's also a level of, I don't want to just say selfishness, but the way so many of us were cultured to put emphasis on being a part of, being in relationship to the point where it prioritized the safety of children.
Yeah.
Right? So I see that in so many different cultures and in so many of our experiences where sometimes it's not even just the religious aspect of it, it's how much we have been fed this thing that we have to, especially as women, you are void of value if you are not married, if you're not in a relationship, and just throwing the kids in there as a byproduct because there's another thing and there's a level of shame that comes with that you're a woman and you don't have children. And a lot of women, I believe, were never given the choice to, it's okay to understand that it's okay to be a woman and not have children, especially if you didn't want them. Right? Yeah. And I think that also plays a major part in how many of our parents and grandparents and foreparents parented. Because truthfully, while we understand the religious aspects of it, it makes me question just your heart posture, in the sense that, does it really take religion or someone laying these expectations on you that to the point where your child, or in your case, your niece, well, in my case too, your niece, that the child is coming to you and saying this level of harm has been done, and you totally and completely disregard that for this individual.
Yeah.
What is that? Is it just the fact that it's because we were taught this and the expectation was placed because of religion? Or is it also, it could be, two things can be true. If I don't have a man, if I'm not married, what does society think of me?
Yeah.
What does that say about me?
How am I going to raise these kids on my own?
Huh?
How am I going to raise these kids
How
on my own?
am I going to raise these kids on our own? And and I continue to see this today, which is why I question this and I've been sitting with it, because I always say kids, for some reason, always ends up getting I can't say that on air, the other end of the stick. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
The bad end.
The bad end of the stick, the dookie end. But how is it that so many of us feel comfortable in just disregarding the pains of children, the ones that are completely dependent on you, for the spouse, for the adult? So going back to your experience, the fact that he was removed from the house, because it technically was the right thing to do. Now, what is the headspace that your aunt, I know you can't answer this, but I'm just saying, what is the headspace of your aunt in that point? Like, this is the person that harmed my nieces. For you to just gloss over that and be like, okay, come on back.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why I say, like, you know, it's a difficult decision to make. You know, it's a difficult decision to make.
It is.
And, you know, there are two different responses to that. The first one would be, from a healed perspective, how would you respond?
Yeah.
And from an unhealed perspective, how would you respond? And I think we don't think about that, right? Because a healed person, like, what's the movie with Tyler Perry? I think it's I Can Do Bad All By Myself with Taraji.
Probably.
where she plays. I think she sings in like a club or something like that, and the guy she's in a relationship with, he attempts to assault the girl that comes, her niece that comes into, or I think it's her niece that comes into the house or whatever. The niece told her, and she pretended like you know what I mean, just because she needed to catch him or whatever. But the moment it happened, he was out, right? Like, and this is a movie, movie. The moment it happened, she was out. I mean, he was out, right? Because she believed her. Yeah. And not only did she believe her, she understood what that scenario was.
Yeah.
And so you gotta kind of have that basic understanding, say, I can't do this because I understand this is so wrong that I can't go back, even though it's going to hurt, right? And I don't think that she had the strength enough to do that.
Yeah.
And so what the weakness in her said was, I have to take him back. The weaker person, the inner child, the inner voice in her says, I can't do this without him.
I can't be alone.
I can't be alone.
That
right?
is something we don't talk
and
about
that
a
took
lot.
priority over, our feelings and what happened. And we had to begin our own process of healing and what that looked like. And I want to give her some credit because, when I told her, she held the space.
Yeah.
And even after I said, I'm going to write a book one day. I wrote a letter. I gave it to her. And she said,
This is your aunt we're talking about.
Yeah, this is my aunt. And she said, Tammy, do whatever it is you need to do. I want you to do whatever it is you need to do. And so she still held that space because it's a very difficult space to be in. And so I think I value that. I honor her for that, right? Because as an adult now, I understand the decision. I wouldn't make that decision. If something happened to my child, I'm out. Yeah. But not everybody is strong enough to make that decision.
And in truth and in fact, sometimes we say that because that is genuinely what we want to believe, but being in the situation is different. I can't wrap my mind around doing something other, but I in the space and as we're talking about your aunt, I extend grace to her in that sense because that was a hard move. That was a mature move because at the end of the day, there's many a women who would still be, oh, you can't put my business out there. This is it. So it would be another way of showing up and choosing the husband over even the adult version of Tammy, right? So to do that, knowing that, hey, at some point in time, people are going to buy this book and will know. And to know that she's at that space now where she can hold that. And I can only imagine she had to go through that process. My husband's actions are my husband's actions, right? But is she still married to him? Okay.
Still married, still together. I couldn't really say what their life looked like, right?
Yeah.
But what I can imagine is that unless you are in alignment with God, it's not going to look well.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what forgiveness did for me. It freed me of having to even think about the responsibility of what life would look like for them. Because one thing that I know to be true about God is he cares about how his children are treated. And there are always going to be repercussions for it. And when there is violation and sexual violation that has occurred within the dynamics of any relationship, he's going to prioritize the child. Right. But if you don't have that level of understanding, you don't know that.
That right there, that God would prioritize the child. It's one of the things that I have wrestled with for so much of my life, as in being a believer. Well, now in a different space than how I was before. Because I couldn't understand for the life of me how majority of the people around me profess to be believers and they're reading or professing that they're reading the word. but that they ended up resorting and taking the stance that they took, as in choosing adults over the child and the child's suffering. It wasn't connecting for me.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when the Bible is so clear on just how much children are valued in God's eyes.
Yeah.
Did we not read that part?
Yeah,
You know?
and I believe it's just because we're not reading the way that God has, like it's one of those where we like to pick and choose what we want to take from the Bible that applies to our life. We're gonna always pick and choose the parts that make us feel good,
More comfortable.
and we're gonna lean into the emotions of how we feel. And so, if you are analyzing, one of those who has also probably experienced trauma, I don't know, whatever the case may be. You might not have even experienced trauma at all. Or you might just have daddy issues or something, whatever.
Which is still
whatever
trauma,
the case
right?
is that you keep holding on, because then it also goes to people who are abused, right?
Yeah.
They keep taking the person back over and over and over again, right? When you are reading the word and you're reading it from an emotional space, to basically say, okay, God, how do I respond?
Yeah.
But I don't want to be alone. How do I respond? But I don't know how to survive. How do I respond? But it's always going to be a how do I respond? But, right? Then we're going to find the answers or look for the answers that's going to cure the but, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to being able to trust God in if you trust me, I'll be your provider. If you trust me, you'll never be alone, because I said in my word that I'll never leave and forsake you, right? If you trust me in these moments, we're trusting ourselves and our feelings because of the but.
And that's
Right.
where emotions trump the sacrifice that we are called
Yeah.
to do, to serve, because to be a believer, rather, because it doesn't matter what the scenario, there is going to be that choice that needs to be made, as in what would be accepting and acceptable to God versus my selfish desires. Yes, you're saying, I'm asking God, I want to do this, but you resort to your selfish desire.
Yeah.
Right? So it's chumping. We went in a total different direction.
This is the direction that God wanted us to go in.
Yeah. So that hits heavy and sit in the pit of my stomach as I continue to work with children, and you're being asked the question, why didn't mommy choose me? Why didn't daddy choose me? And being in that position myself as a child, and have wondered the same thing. It's one of those things, and you talk about your sister a lot, which, by the way, did you just learn about your sister's experience through her book?
Not just.
Not
Yeah.
not in Right Now, but is that how you learned about her experience?
I knew about what had happened, but I didn't know the
The
depth.
depth. And that's something, well, neither of you knew that you were having the experience at the time.
Because I used to transition a lot, and I think after the violation, I just didn't want to be where I was anymore. I was living in the Bahamas, and so I left. I was like, I just want to get out of the Bahamas because so many things was happening.
Yeah.
Every bad thing that it's ever happened to me, the majority of it was happening to me while I was there, and so I was like, I need an out. I need an out. And so when I got to the U.S., because my mom was here and my sister was here, and I remember she had a conversation with me, and she was like, who in the family don't you like? Right?
Your
Like it
sister
was
asked you
so
that?
random. Yeah. It was so random. We were just sleeping, and she was like, who in the family don't you like? And then I said this particular name.
Yeah.
And then she asked me, and then she told me, right? And it wasn't until then that we told our mom.
Wow.
Right. So, and then after we told my mom, like, because she could never fathom something like that happening to her kids. Like, she leaving us in the care of her parents, right? Like, or like the safety net because that's what they do. That's tradition. Like, you go out, you go to school, you do all the things, you leave the children with the grandparents or the relatives, the close ones, the ones that you trust.
The aunts,
but you
uncles,
can't really control who comes into the home, right?
Or who is in the home.
Or who is in the home. And so, we had that moment there, and I remember my mom saying, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this happened to my kids. This is the kind of stuff that only happens in movies. Like, that's how far removed she was.
Wow.
Thinking that these things could only happen in movies. It could never be the reality of what's actually happening right now. And, we had that moment there where we shared, but it wasn't until years and years and years later where, because she's going through her own, like, she's experiencing violation from all sides, and to the level and to the extreme, it was a lot. And so she's still, even to this day, still processing all the things that happen because it's unreal, right?
That is your mom or your sister?
My sister, sorry. Okay. She's still processing all the things that happened to her because it's unreal. And so, it's one of those where I probably won't ever know everything. I only knew the pieces that she was safe enough to write in a book. And even that was just I need to get it out.
Yeah.
It didn't have anything to do with the healing part. And so I believe that, there'll be a time where she writes another story.
I hope she does.
But there'll be some healing attached to that. Yeah. But it takes years.
This work takes years. And that's something we can't stress enough. This entire process is a journey.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, going back to what I was referencing just now as children coming, and this as well, children coming and they're asking, why and how could they choose, and how could, the man be chosen. What would you say, and tapping into the child that needed the safety, that needed to be seen, that needed to be chosen over the uncle? What would you say to a child the age that you were violated, having that experience presently?
I think
we went really left, but
I know. Ain't none of this in our notes, y'all. Sometimes we just gotta start talking and see what God says. I would tell that child, lean into God. And I know that's so cliche, right? And I know, like, a lot of times people want something tangible, but there is a tangible version of God that we don't really tap into. And sometimes it's hard to understand that as a child, but if you're not there yet, you got to lean into somebody. You got to open up to somebody. You got to speak up to somebody. But not just anybody.
Yeah.
That person has to also understand what you're going through and create a space for you to be able to release whatever's on your mind. Because, whenever that happens, therapy is always required.
Yeah.
But not everybody is going to get it.
And
right?
Not everybody has access.
Not everybody has access. And not everybody has access to, a lot of things.
Especially your island girls.
Especially the island girls. Therapy, especially... These things are frowned upon, but you need somebody.
Yeah.
Because the more you hold in the trauma that you've experienced, the more difficult your life is going to be, because your body holds in the trauma.
Yeah.
And we don't really understand how that shows up, right? Until you are ready to crack, until you're ready to pop. And then when you sit down and realize, man, I've suppressed all of these things. This is the reason why I'm experiencing this. This is the reason why I'm struggling in this.
Yeah.
But if I just allow myself to let it go, then you give room to allow God to move, even if you're not talking to him.
Yeah.
Right? And so I would say, speak on it. Speak on your trauma. Like, talk to people. Talk, not anybody, but find a safe person to be able to express. And if you can't get there, then write it down. Write it down.
Recorded.
We just talked about my sister, or recorded, but we just talked about how my sister, her outlet was to be able to write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down. Just write it.
It's funny you mentioned writing, because before I even understood that what I was doing when I was a teenager is journaling, it got to the point that I couldn't contain this anymore, which references what you just said, that before you get to the place that you pop, before that explosion comes, and it looks very different for different people, you don't even know how, that moment, that's going to trigger you to the point where it's either your sanity, your judgment, whatever it is, you just lose the plot, as they say. Sometimes you don't know when that's going to happen, but in preparation to not get to that space, right? There was a period in my teens where I had nobody to turn to. And it's not because I didn't try, right? Because, and the viewers, you'll know parts of my story, but the fact is I went to 7. Well, I didn't go to 7. I went to my aunt, and I told her at the point where I caught my abuser with my sister. I spoke up again after all the years of remaining silent, thinking that something was going to be done, especially the fact that not only did I tell my aunt, but in order for my aunt to get to my mom to tell her what we had just discovered, she had to go to my grandaunt's house, you know, and in lieu of all of that happening, 7 adult women ended up finding out within that time span. And not one of them decided to say, hey, let's protect the babies. Everyone chose whatever their choices were. No one protected us. So in my case, having nowhere to turn, because now when you're now left in the situation that you have to figure this out, it got to the point where it wasn't just my acting up. I was about to act out. And my acting out was leading towards, you know, I would have ended up behind the bars, right? So in order to, now I'm so serious. And these are things that I don't think we talk enough about, because when pressure is adding, and someone's constantly violating you, and no, you don't have an outlet. Amazingly, my mom sent me a journal. A little tiny blue and white journal I'll never forget. And I started writing. I wrote, and I was writing my heart out in that thing, right? And it kept me for a period. It really did. And that's what it is. It's having to go step by step, using tools, whatever you have access to in that moment, to get it out, right? Just to prevent yourself from literally going insane. But for me, I did that, and I did that for years until that didn't work anymore. Right? I did. I was talking to the lady you introduced me to last night. It was like, what do you do in those scenarios when you've used up all the tools that unknowingly were tools that you didn't know, like, you know, the listening to music to drown out your thoughts.
Sometimes you need somebody else to feed back off of, to tell you. Otherwise, journaling is great.
It is great.
It's an outlet.
Especially when you have nothing else.
Right? But at some point, you're going to need somebody to counter the thoughts that you're having.
Right.
Vocally.
And that's where we're getting to the importance of finding someone to talk to. Because journaling holds it for a bit.
It holds it.
But that period fades, and it fades.
But then
after
you start creating your own storyline.
So finding someone to talk to, and to your point, you're not going to talk to any and everybody, right? But that a safe person. And yes, nobody in my family at the time was safe for me, apparently, but there were other people. Because had I known, had I not been scared into not speaking, I probably would have had the forethought I could speak to a counselor at school. You know, I could.
And they more than likely, when it's a situation like that, they are required to report it. So
A counselor, a teacher, someone in the church, an aunt that you're close to, somebody. I pray that someone is around that can hold that for you and help you to map into, not map, but help you to process
Yeah.
what that is.
Yeah,
But yeah,
for
it's
sure.
very pivotal too.
y'all, we could be here all day, but we got to
Ciao.
kind of like wrap it up. And what would you say you would say to the person, because your experiences, you went to people, right? And they didn't respond.
Yeah.
So what would you say to the person who is in that same dynamic, who has been going to people and not getting the response and the abuse is still happening?
Whew, that's loaded. I want to say before I answer that, per the last segment that we spoke about, why friendship can be so difficult. Now you see, as an adult and working through the processes, you see why it becomes clear, right? Because as a child, if you have gone to 7 adults and you never got that coverage, adults are now unsafe in every way. So to the child that may be in that position right now, where you have attempted talking to someone and everywhere that you turn, nothing's being done, please don't stop talking. Find someone. Find someone. Do not hold it in, because I held it in for so many years. That is why I'm still at this big old age, still having issues and having to work through friendships and relationships, because there was no one there to contain and to help me process. But dare I say, try to find someone. And in the case that you cannot, I know it sounds crazy. But you can always talk to God. Literally just talk to God. If you have to yell, scream, trust me, He knows exactly what you're going through. He knows what you're facing, right? Talk to Him. It's another form of release, and it doesn't have to look like you're on your hands and knees, hands clasped. No, it's literally like I'm talking to you right now, saying, God, I am going through this. You see this. I need some relief. Send me someone that can help me to walk through this, or please give me the strength until we get on the other side of this. But talk to God. To find somebody else to talk to, journal, and the reason why it's so very challenging at times to give hard and fast ways in which to approach this is because some of you are in unsafe situations. Like I found myself in, where threats were a very real part of my journey, right? I was threatened, I can't speak or else. And some of you may be going through this as we speak. So the dynamics are different, and this is where you have to ask God. I know it's hard because I was at that place too. Where I was talking, right? And you felt like God was just so distant because I didn't understand. But trust and believe me, He's there, and He will eventually guide you or send somebody in, depending on how young you are. Send someone in that you can trust. But my thing is, do not ever stop telling. Don't stop telling.
Don't stop telling. Don't stop telling. Y'all, I enjoyed this episode. Y'all, we did not plan on going here. This was supposed to be a completely different episode. Listen.
How do you heal?
And
it went
to some of the roots of why we struggled to heal.
Yeah.
And some of the dynamics around why the symptoms show up the way that they do.
They do, yeah.
Because if we think about all of what we even just talked about here and think about the capacity that we have for friendships, it's multi-layered.
Ties in, yeah.
It's multi-layered. And a lot of people don't even think like, when I'm thinking about even the friendships that I had, there were so many different traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
And so when they are just adding on top of each other and layering and being stacked, and you're not talking about it, but you're like, hey, let's be friends, or you're showing up in friendships and then wondering why you look like a bad friend, these are the reasons why.
Or you're experiencing someone as a bad friend.
Or you're experiencing some. These are the reasons why. Because trauma is so multi-layered. And there are not enough people who are talking about their trauma experiences.
Yeah.
And not enough people healing from their experiences. And not enough people getting help for it. So I hope this episode is a trigger for you, to be able to push you, to be able to work on your healing journey, because that is something that is continuous.
Yeah.
So thank you, Larissa.
You're welcome.
It's been a day. It's been a day, y'all. It's been a day. So I just want to say, do you have any closing things that you want to say? We got like 20 seconds.
Oh. In closing, my heart is for the young girls and the boys that are out there dealing with situations like this presently. You're not alone. I know it feels like that right now. And some of what I'm saying just may sound like blah because you're in the situation. Trust and believe when I tell you, you are not alone. And most importantly, you're going to get through this. Tammy and I are living examples of this, right? So hang in there. You are not alone. There is people out here that sees you, that values you, that is ready to love on you and to accept you just the way you are. But we know it's a tough journey, but just
it's a tough journey.
Hang on in there. Tough. You're going to get through
uncomfortable.
This.
It's tough. Ooh. And I keep hearing this song in my head. I'm going to just sing the last. I know somehow, I know some way.
Come on.
You're going to make it. Ooh. No matter what the thought or test, whatever comes our way, we're going to make it.
Oh, my gosh.
Jesus on our side. Things will work out fine.
Come on, Tam.
You're going to make it.
Believe that.
You're going to make it.
Don't give up.
You're going to make it.
Do not give up.
We're going to end on that note, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. If you have enjoyed this episode, y'all tap in. Let us know, what is the lesson that you learned today?
Ooh.
Share it in the comments because somebody might need to learn that lesson too. Thank you all for tuning in to the Sex Ed for Saints podcast. Until next time, we're going to say bye. Hey y'all, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Now friends, if this conversation blessed you, do me a favor. Take a moment to like, leave a review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, because you already know we need more faith-filled, real conversations like this in the world. And listen, I know you heard a gem today, something that made you pause, something that made you think, something that made you say, woo, this was for me. But friend, it might not be just for you. So go ahead and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Send it to a friend, a spouse, a sister in Christ, somebody who's been feeling stuck or silent in this area. Let's spread healing, freedom, and truth one conversation at a time. And until next time, we're going to get candid, but keep it God. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Where hearts get free, learning our bodies with holy therapy. God wrote desire with love in the mix. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6. This the space where hearts get free, learning our bodies with holy therapy. God wrote desire with love in the mix. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6. Doing it Mondays at 6. Come and sing this love. Oh, I come and sing this love. Come and sing this song. Oh, let's sing this song. This is the space where hearts get free, learning our bodies with holy therapy. Got our desire with love in the mix. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6. This is the space where hearts get free. Learning our bodies with holy therapy. Got desire with love in the mix. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6.
What's your name? What's your question?